The elephant in the room, as far as my candidacy is concerned, is why does an MP want to do this job, and can an MP do this job? First point I want to make is, when the review group headed by Sarah Boyack and Jim Murphy concluded that we should open it up not only to MPs but also to MEPs, that was generally welcomed by the party. I certainly don't remember any elected representatives or any activists complaining about the principle of an MP standing for this position. The media, of course, welcomed it and said this was very far-thinking and very inclusive, but now they've decided that it's all very well having an MP in the ballot paper, but if they win, that'll be huge problems for the party. We either have to make our minds up. I mean, a lot of the submissions I know that were made to the review did ask that MPs should be allowed to stand. They've now agreed to that, and I hope the one-day special conference we've got on the 29th of October will agree that particular rule change. We cannot welcome that rule change, and we cannot welcome the principle of an MP standing without, I think, accepting the principle that an MP can actually do the job. This isn't just tokenism. We can't allow it just to be tokenism. If an MP turns out, whether it's me or someone else, turns out to be the best candidate, I believe that candidate should be the leader of the Scottish Party. And I just wanted to establish that principle. But secondly, I'm not saying that there would be no difficulty in having an MP leading the party from Westminster effectively, or at least from outside Holyrood. I don't really want to dwell on the fact that a precedent has been created by Alex Salmond. There's not enough lot I want to emulate when it comes to Alex Salmond. I do want to make the point, though, that the next Scottish Parliament elections, and crucially the referendum, is not going to be won during the first 10 minutes of First Minister's questions every Thursday in Holyrood. It's going to be one where the politics are, and the politics are not solely or exclusively in the Holyrood chamber or even in the House of Commons chamber. Politics happens everywhere. It happens in the high street, our workplaces, in television studios, radio studios. Politics is where people are interested in politics, and I have to say that is not necessarily the first 10 minutes of First Minister's questions on a Thursday. If we can get someone in that position who can communicate, who can articulate a vision for Scotland crucially, and the Labour Party secondly, if we can get someone that the Scottish people will trust, put some confidence in as a possible future First Minister, that person should do the job. Personally, I don't think it matters an awful lot whether that person has 2 letters after his or her name or 3 letters after his or her name. There are other criteria that are far more important than that, and that's what I hope to prove during this campaign. I want to address something else that is, like it or not, it's going to dominate Scottish politics for the next few years, and that's the referendum. There has been some talk of the UK government being asked or being invited to conduct their own referendum, possibly next year, on whether Scotland should remain in the United Kingdom. I want to explain why I don't think that is necessary, or why it should not be necessary. There are 4 criteria that I think Alex Salmond has to meet in order for the threat, if you want to call it that, of a UK government referendum is to recede. Because let's make no mistake, the SNP do have a mandate for a referendum. There's no point in trying to claim that the referendum shouldn't take place, or that Holyrood doesn't have the legislative powers to have a referendum. The referendum is going to happen, and it should happen under the auspices of the Scottish Government, but on strict conditions. This is far too important a decision, far too important an exercise to allow any party to play party political games, and I'm afraid there is a real danger that that's exactly what the SNP are doing. The 4 criteria, the 4 conditions for the Scottish Government going ahead and without any interference from the UK Government should be, first, that it is a straight in or out question, a yes or no question. Should Scotland remain part of the United Kingdom? Yes or no. Second question, the second condition should be, when's it going to happen? There's something fundamentally dishonest about the fact that Alex Salmond personally must know what his preferred date is. He must have told his lieutenants, he must have told those close to him in the command centre of SNP headquarters. They know the date, they know the month, and they know the year. But for some reason he doesn't trust the Scottish people to know that information, and that is absolutely crucial. It's crucial to our economy, It's crucial to industry who want to know whether there's going to be this upheaval in the near future or the far-flung future. But crucially, we are citizens of Scotland. We've got the right to know when this very, very important decision is going to be taken. Alec knows what the date is. There is no reason other than party political advantage that he's not telling us. That should happen as well. Third condition should be that the franchise stays as it is at the moment. If 16 and 17-year-olds were already allowed to vote as the norm, and if they had already taken part in elections in the past, and we had a Labour-led government at Holyrood and it said, well, we're going to have a referendum, but we're going to restrict the franchise so that 16 and 17-year-olds can't vote. I mean, that would be, of course, completely unacceptable. Does anyone actually believe that Alex Salmond is such a devotee of the idea of younger people's franchise that that's the only reason he wants them to vote in an independence referendum? No, he wants them to vote because he thinks that they are more inclined to vote yes to independence. That's far too cynical, even for Alex Salmond. That is a cynical move, and it should not be allowed, it should not be tolerated. And the fourth condition, I think, has to be that any referendum comes under the auspices and the supervision of the Electoral Commission. Why on earth should a body that was set up specifically to oversee such referendum, to make sure that public money was not being misspent for party political purposes, why on earth would it not be given oversight of the most important referendum that has taken place in the history of this country? Subject to those four conditions being met, I don't think the UK government should come in. But I do seriously think that if he is going to play politics on any of those conditions, then I think the ball is then with the UK government to decide whether or not the referendum can actually be a valid one. Because if he does all the things that he's threatened to do, the result of the referendum, whatever it is, even if it's overwhelmingly in favour of the status quo and us remaining part of the United Kingdom, the result won't be worth anything because it will be so tainted with his party political manoeuvrings. So I just wanted to finish by, very briefly, because I do find that the question and answer sessions at these meetings are far more useful for you as well as for me. But very briefly, I just wanted to say something about where we now go as a party. I would, of course, love it if this debate and the leadership and if Scottish politics over the next 3 or 4 years was going to concentrate on the things that we care about and things we joined the Labour Party to fight for. It's not going to happen because we're going to be focused entirely on the Constitution as the SNP want us to be, and that's unfortunate because there are some major issues that we need to be engaged with as a party. I absolutely firmly believe that the Labour Party must remind itself that we were set up, we are here because we're the party that represents working people. We are also the party that bends over backwards to make sure that the most vulnerable, the long-term unemployed, those who depend on benefits, that those people are represented and protected and defended. That is in our DNA. We will always do that. That doesn't define us as a party. We are the workers' party. The clue is in the name. We're the Labour Party. And in this country, if you are working all the hours that God says, if you're up at 6 or 7 in the morning, you're working 8 or 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, well, 5 days a week, trying to bring up a family, trying to pay all your bills on time, you will know, going round the doors in recent elections, that time and time again, it's working people, certainly it is the case in my constituency, who say to me, the Labour Party doesn't represent me anymore. There's nothing in it for me when I vote Labour. And they are the people who find themselves either not voting at all or drifting away to other parties. And I do feel very strongly that we are the workers' party. Every policy that we look at, every policy that we consider for legislating on, should go through that particular judgment about, is this going to make life easier for working people in this country? And if it doesn't, we have to think very carefully about whether or not we actually want to progress it. It's not about the Labour Party. Nobody cares about what the Labour Party is saying at the moment. You'll find it very difficult to find anyone out there, even people who voted Labour last time, you'll find it very difficult to find somebody who cares who the next leader of the Scottish Party is. People have stopped listening to us because we have stopped saying things that matter to them, and we have to rediscover how to do that again. This is not about the Labour Party, this is about Scotland. Thank you.